The very first time I took this 1964 Greenbrier out for a drive this year, it broke down. She left me stranded on the side of the road. The very first time that's ever happened in the 11 years that I've had this van. But finding the right person to work on this thing makes all the difference in the world. It's a unique car, really unconventional. But this guy, he knew exactly what he was doing. He got this thing fixed. And today, I am back. Woo! Within the past minute or so, the skies just opened up, took a dump. So we'll see how long this lasts for. Well, let me turn this off. I tell you what, when this thing broke 4 months ago, it made the most gut-wrenching sound you've ever heard. That sound was in every forward gear, first, second, third, fourth, reverse too. That had me convinced that the issue was the transmission, like the main shaft that fed the rear differential. I was stumped. I didn't know how to fix it. I didn't want to necessarily drop the engine and trans. It came down as one complete unit, called a power pack, and it goes into a cradle and then you split it open. I didn't want to get into that time and effort, the special tools. I took it to a guy near here. His name is Dave. He works on Corvairs. That's all he does for 35, 40 years. All he does is work on Corvairs. I took this over to him, had it towed over to him in 5 minutes. After explaining the process to him, what was going on and the sounds it was making and demonstrating it, 5 minutes later, he had it diagnosed. He knew exactly what was going on and how to fix it. He had the parts with him in the spare parts bin, and he had the whole thing fixed in 2 hours time. $97. And $97 isn't just for the parts, it was the parts and the labor and getting it out the door. It was such a treat, such a relief to get this thing back on the road again. Let me show you what broke on it. This is what Dave gave me, and this is called the yoke. This is coming out of the rear differential. There's one on each side. It's an independent rear suspension. Comes out of the differential. It feeds a half shaft that goes to the wheels, basically. And if you see inside of there, you see those gears? Stripped. Right here is what they're supposed to be. And way inside, smooth. Dave said he pulled this out, he had a spare, he put a new one in. This is steel. I thought this was sacrificial. I thought this would be aluminum, and this is actually steel. It's got a lot of weight to it. He said the axle shafts teeth are fine, but this thing just gave up the ghost. Which is a huge relief, because these things are interchangeable amongst other Corvairs, not specific to the van. And that's a big deal, because they only made 8,147 of these vans in 1964. And so finding van specific parts, like a bad yoke, if that was the case, next to impossible. And I never really understood why there were so few buyers for these vans, man. These things are incredibly packaged in a small, tight space. They can get a lot of features, a lot of people in these things. This thing, size-wise, is smaller than a Honda Civic. Honestly, it's an inch narrower, 5 inches shorter than a Civic. This thing sits 9 people. You can see the front row seating. It's a bench seat with the shifter in the middle. The middle row is rear facing, although this can be flipped around to be forward facing as well. In here, you pull the door handle, you have a third row seat, and in the back over here, there's tons of space back here for the dogs, for groceries, for suitcases and luggage, anything a family of 9 might need on a long road trip. But Corvairs, man, they're just untraditional. They really are. It took me months of reading up on these things before I even took the chance of searching for one to buy one and so forth. These scoops, that's for the air inlet for the engine, which is mounted right down here, right down low on the body. You have a handle down here that gives you access to the basic items of the car engine. You have the alternator, you have the oil check and the oil fill. Get on there. Distributor, coil, oil filter. And to access the rest of the engine, it's inside the cab. Open up both doors, underneath this platform here. But you know what? The rain is coming down now again, so let's get the van inside the garage and we'll talk about more. One of the problems with this van when it rains, I get a drip inside. Somewhere in this weather stripping, I haven't quite figured out yet where, but somewhere there's a gap, a break, a rip, a tear, I don't know. Water drips in, seeps its way right through the dash, right behind the dashboard, lands right on my clutch foot. You end up with one soaked foot the whole time driving in the rain. Not fun at all. And then you got to dry out the carpeting, make sure it doesn't rust. This engine platform is held down with a bunch of screws. You can see right here, there's one. I'll leave a few out. I don't put them all in. There must be 10, 12 screws that hold this thing down. Let me pull it out and I'll show you what I'm talking about. And once all the screws are out, you can lift the carpet up. You have this rubber sound deadening. You have these handles and you lift, oh my goodness. You lift that lid up and you have full access to the engine. You have, over on this side, you have an oil bath air cleaner. You have 2 paper element air cleaners. You have 2 carburetors as well. You have your linkage. You have this torturous route that this cooling fan belt takes. And it's completely unconventional, but the best packaging you could ever imagine for a vehicle. And that's why having someone like Dave nearby, literally, he lives 15 miles away from me, is such a heaven sent, is such a gift, because he got this thing put back together, back on the road again for $97. I also figured since while he had the van, it was prudent for him to rebuild the carburetors too. It's been at least 15 years since those carburetors have been touched. The van was running cold-blooded, and he just got it dialed in. He rebuilt those carburetors, rebuilt the chokes. He wanted to put new air cleaners on there and a new PVC, and this thing is running tip-top all in, $323. And his skills, his abilities, he got this thing back on the road way quicker, way faster than what I could ever do. So when I paid the bill for this van, I ended up rounding it up to $350, and even at that, I feel like I shortchanged the guy. Look, he's just one of these old timers who does this stuff not to get rich, but more like a service to the community. It's a way of keeping these obscure cars on the road and at an affordable price too. I also told Dave that when he had the van, he went through it, just to make sure it's roadworthy. I plan on taking this thing from Delaware to Amelia Island this March to join in on the Amelia Island Concours d'Elegance, and I submitted the van as an entrant. You know, regardless if it gets accepted or not, I'm still making the drive down. I'm going to spend a long weekend in Amelia Island, going to take in the show, the cars and coffee, and anything else that's going on for that weekend. And I'm excited to bring that to you as well through these videos in March when we get down there. So I'm thrilled to have the van back. I hope you enjoyed what you saw. If you like more of this van in videos, just let me know and I'll knock out a few more videos on this thing. Otherwise, I hope you enjoyed the video and I will see you next time.